Hi, I'm Scott, and today we're going to talk about a Pep Boys brake inspection. You know, your brake system is probably your vehicle's most critical system. It allows you to stop. And if you ever need to make a panic stop, you want to make sure that your brakes are in tip-top shape. Before I cover with you what a Pep Boys brake inspection entails, let's talk about some of the common symptoms of brake failure. When you apply your brake, does the wheel turn one way or to the other? Is the pedal soft and mushy? Or does it pulsate? Do you hear that awful screeching or grinding noise? If your brakes are making those symptoms, you need to get to Pep Boys and allow us to perform a free brake inspection on your vehicle as soon as you can. First step of our Pep Boys brake inspection, topside, under the hood. That's where your master cylinder is. Your master cylinder has the reservoir that keeps all your brake fluid in it. We're going to make sure that the brake fluid has got the right consistency, it's not murky or syrupy, and it's at the right level. Once we're done up here, put the car up in the air, pull the wheels, check both the front and rear brakes. We start with the brake hoses. We make sure that they're not cracked and not leaking. And then we come to the wheel end. There's really three critical wheel end components: the rotor, the caliper, and the brake friction, or brake pads. First, the rotor. OEM manufacturer specs have certain thickness guidelines for these rotors. If you're below spec, it won't transfer heat properly. And the transfer of heat is really how your vehicle stops. If it's warped, you'll be getting that pulsating brake pedal that we talked about earlier. Sometimes these get gouged as the brake friction goes metal to metal. Next, the brake caliper. The caliper is the hydraulic part that actually squeezes the brake pads up against the rotor. Over time, the brake caliper can become stuck or frozen in the sliding fixture here. If that happens, the inboard brake pad wears out prematurely. Sometimes that causes that grinding or screeching noise that you hear. If that's the case, the damage is often hidden on the inside that you can't see until you take the wheel off. Finally, the brake pads. We call them friction. The brake pads have to be a certain thickness to properly stop your vehicle. If they're too thin, they won't transfer heat. In that case, they need to be replaced. Now let's move to the back wheels and show you what we do there. Again, we start with the brake lines. We make sure they're not cracked or leaking. Then, move on to the components of the brake drum system. First, the friction, the brake shoes. Again, like the front, that friction has a minimum thickness as prescribed by the original equipment manufacturer. We check to make sure those minimum thicknesses still exist. Next, the attaching hardware, the springs and clips. Those actually wear out quite often because of the heat that's generated inside the brake drum system. Next, we move on to the wheel cylinder. The wheel cylinder is actually the hydraulic apparatus that moves the brake shoes out against the brake drum and causes the friction. We make sure it's not leaking and that it's operating freely. And finally, we inspect the brake drum. Just like the rotor up front, the brake drum has minimum thicknesses as prescribed by the original equipment manufacturer. We check to make sure it's not scored or gouged, and that minimum thickness still exists. If it doesn't, we'll machine it, or we must replace it. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about brakes. Like I said earlier, your brake system is your vehicle's most important component. And if you've got some of those symptoms, get to Pep Boys as soon as you can, and let one of our certified ASE professionals take a look at your vehicle and perform a brake inspection. Your safety and the safety of your family is our #1 priority. Thanks again.